Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. If you're able to hear me and see me, let me know. We're going to start a brand new project today. So excited about this. Okay, I want to make sure that we're live. We are. All right, good deal. We're at least live over there in Facebook. So hope you guys have had a great weekend. You'll see the reference photo down there in the bottom corner of your screen. I believe it should be your bottom left. And if you're interested in following along with it, hey, Jan, how are you? Good morning. So if you guys are interested in drawing this particular drawing, the cropped and smaller version is over there in, it's over there under live streams on sharpenedartist.com. So if you go to sharpenedartist.com/live streams, you'll find it. The other way you can get it is go under resources. And then there's a drop down and you'll see the word live streams and you can go right there. So, all right. Go back over here. All right. So what I'm using today is I cut down a crescent board. Let me show this. So this is what I ordered off of Blick, and I've got 3 of these 11 by 14 illustration boards, and they're nice. They're a very rigid surface. They work quite well for a colored pencil. That's what they look like on the other side, and they're very sturdy. Yet there's a real fine tooth on the board, so it makes it nice that way. And I cut this at 7.5 inches, so it's 7.5 by 11. All right. Now, if you want the full resolution of the reference image that I'm going to be using, that is available over there in Monthly Sharpener under Members Circle. All right, so I'm going to start out with my blue sketching pencil. Now I taped this down, and I used this Post-it tape. If you follow along with my podcast, I recently interviewed Bonnie Schechter, amazing artist. She draws on drafting film. And she gave me this little tip using Post-it tape. So labeling cover-up tape. I'm trying it out. Excuse me. Seems to work pretty well so far. So I've just got a strip of tape over here, stronger tape over here on the other side of the Post-it tape. Okay. What I think I will do. So I printed out 2 versions. I think I'm going to raise this reference up a little bit. Got 2 versions of it here, a lighter version and a darker version. A lot of times in the beginning, I like to print out like a black and white just so that I can see everything a little clearer. The nice thing about this Post-it labeling tape is it's very low tack. So I can move it up here, because the best thing you can do for yourself when you're starting a drawing is to is to get the reference in the same orientation as your drawing surface. Okay, I'm going to put that other one over here. If everything is exactly lined up parallel, then it's going to be so much easier. So also, if this is, let me scoot this over. Let me zoom out here just a little bit. So if this is lined up with my drawing surface, and I'm going to draw exactly in the same orientation, then that is going to help me out quite a bit as well. In other words, I don't want my drawing way up here and then think to myself, okay, I'm going to translate that diagonally over here. You could do that. It's always easier to set yourself up for success right from the beginning and get that oriented the best way possible, where you've got this nose exactly parallel to your paper where you want to place it on your paper as well. So very cool, Stephanie. So Stephanie, and Jan's asking, how are you? I am doing very well, Jan. Very cool, Stephanie. Thanks for joining, even though you're remote at the moment. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Looks like I've got maybe something on this surface. All right. So one of the things I can do, if I wanted to, I could get a ruler out. I could get that exactly parallel and exactly in the same, on the same plane over here, lined up to be as precise as possible. I can use my pencil though. I can just kind of eyeball it, and that should be, close enough. So it's going to be right in here. Is where it will be. Now, the other thing is, how far over am I going to place the nose? Where do I want that nose? Do I want it exactly in the middle? Hey, Oksana, how are you? Good to see you over here. So I think that I probably want the nose in the middle. So I want to move it over right around here. And because I'm on this very hard board, I can go ahead and scrub on this a little bit more than I would other surfaces. Now, I've never drawn on this particular surface. I've drawn on other crescent illustration boards. They're all, some of them are slightly a little different than others. So I just want to keep that in mind, that it may be a little bit different than some of the other ones that I've used. Okay. There is a slope right in there where that nostril is, and I'm coming back up over here on this side towards the outer edge of the nostril. Now, I don't know exactly where any of these things are yet, and that's okay. But I want to think about where it might be, where it might be. Pardon me. I've been up since 4. I don't know why my voice is sounding like I just woke up. Sometimes that happens to me. I don't know why. Okay. So I'm going to make a guess right in there. I'm looking at this piece right here with that guess. Down here, this is all rounded, but it's way, way too early for me to decide on a curved interpretation. So I'm just going to use as many straight lines as I can. Okay, so this part over here goes this way at some point. So it appears to me that there's about the same amount of information from that inner corner of the ala over here, that nostril, to the tip of the nose. But I'm wrong as I kind of measure it here with my pencil. There's a greater distance, greater interval between here and here and here and here. So it's an important thing to keep in mind. I also want to make sure that I am perfectly lined up and looking at my drawing and my reference in at least one static area, and I'm not moving around also. So that's just about as important as getting your reference in one spot exactly parallel and perpendicular to, or parallel rather, to your drawing surface. Okay, so up here, there's two areas, two edges that I'm concerned about. There's this edge right up here on the top, and then there's a shadow edge over here, and then one down in here. So I want to make a determination on where I think this one might be. Now, early on, when I'm looking at this, I'm going to observe more than I'm going to be making marks on my paper, right? I always want to observe more in the beginning, especially. Okay. So somewhere in here, got a mouth. Not exactly sure where that mouth is yet, but it's somewhere right in there. And I want to look at the interval between this edge and the edge of the mouth right in there. We're not going to actually draw the mouth, I don't think, but kind of want to know, where that is. Okay. So this piece, all right. I really love the way that this sketcher pencil adheres to the paper. So that tells me something about how this is going to perform when I start drawing on it. Okay, that should be pretty good right there. This will move down. Got that shadow shape, cast shadow right here. And there's a larger one down here. And so this comes down. All right. Netta Lee Z over on YouTube Live is joining us as well. So appreciate you guys being here. If you're over on Facebook and you're able to comment, let me know. Just want to make sure we're streaming over there without any difficulty. Okay. So right in here is that curves up, then this also is curving back up right in there. Okay. There we go. Roger King joining us over on YouTube Live. How are you? Good to see you over here. Okay. So this shadow shape comes all the way over right in here somewhere. All right. Right here, this leans back this way a little bit more than what I've put in there already. And then this curves back. Let's see here. This comes back this way. It's a very diffused shadow. That second shadow is underneath, right there on top of the lip. All right. Again, if you're just joining and you want to follow along, you want to draw this with me, you're welcome to do that. You can go over to sharpenedartist.com/live streams or look under the resources menu. And you should see this reference, and you can download it there. If you want the full res version of this, it's over in Member Circle, part of Monthly Sharpener. Okay, let me remove some of this. Okay. It does help me to look at the screen to see what it's looking like over there, just to get a sort of a thumbnail image of what we're drawing. And not too bad. Might help if I indicate where that cheek is. Should be somewhere right in there. If we think about like Riley rhythms of the facial features, then we can sort of indicate over here where that cheek is right there, just as a construction line for right now. And then now that I've got a few more lines here, I can add a little bit more maybe for the bottom lip. If I look at those intervals with regard to negative space, where the top lip is, bottom lip, and then chin, that will typically help me to understand what I'm doing here. That might need to be scooted over a little bit more, but for right now, that should be all right. So again, I'm using Crescent board, illustration board. So that's what this comes in, a 3-pack. Professional grade, 11 by 14. I just ordered this a few weeks ago. Let's see what else I can tell you guys about it. I guess that's about it. And I cut it down to a 7.5 inches wide. So it's 11 inches tall. And it's sort of this cream kind of color, sort of this warm white color. I don't know how well that's showing up on the camera, but it is. It's not white, put it that way. Okay. Now I want to evaluate that. I want to look at it for a little while, make sure that, there's enough information on there to start drawing. I'll zoom in here just a little bit. I can remove most of these lines if I'm satisfied with where most of it is. I want that to go down, tapered down a little bit more than what it was. There we go. Okay. The pencil I'm using is this Sketcher pencil, Non-Photo Blue by Caran d'Ache. It's really a great pencil. I don't know how many of you guys have used it, but if you use the Col Erase pencils by Prismacolor, then you'll get the same result, same idea. It's basically an erasable colored pencil. It works very, very nicely for layout. Is you're going to have areas that you'll want to erase, and it's going to be much more difficult if you're using a non-erasable colored pencil. If you're using graphite, you can erase it, but it's possible to erase it, but there's the risk of seeing some of those smudges later on. So I try not to do that. Okay. This is probably enough to go ahead and start adding some colors now on top. All right. I think what I will do is I'm going to use Kapoot Mortem Violet. Well, let's use Kapoot Mortem. So it's a very warm, warm color with a lot of lavender in it as well. But it's very dark. So I think of it more like a red. It's usually the way I think about it. And if I apply this to my paper very lightly, then I'm going to be able to get more on here, more layers on here. So here we go. You guys still with me this morning? Everyone's quiet today. Make sure I'm still streaming over here. I think I am. Hard to tell when I don't hear from anybody. Let's see here. Oksana is here. All right. Thank you. Hey, Jesse. Okay. Looks like we're in good shape. All right. Good deal. No worries. Just want to make sure the stream didn't stop or anything. Okay. So this part under here is going to be my shadow. So I'm just going to put a line down here to indicate that, and down here as well. Oh, you like that color race? Yeah, I do too, Oksana. It's a good pencil, and I don't really care too much which pencil color I'm using. I just grab one of those a lot of times for the color race pencil line. Just like with this blue Sketcher pencil from Caran d'Ache. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to erase it all anyway. Okay, there's a shadow right here. Wow, that's so funny, Stephanie. You're asking about the strategic approach for colored pencils and oils. You're going from dark, laying in all those darks and multiple layers. There are different ways of doing it for different artists and colored pencil, but I got to tell you, it's that approach that you just enumerated right there is exactly pretty much the exact process that I use. So I usually think of more of a grisaille kind of method, and I look for the darks first, and I put those in. So this is the reason why I've got a very dark pencil right now. So I'm mostly concerned with shadow shapes in the beginning, looking for shadows, and then drawing those in. And really, if I look for shadows and I look for the dark values first, and I keep moving like right in here, I've got a very dark shadow. But up here, this side of the nose, it starts to get into my middle values, right? But if I put in the dark shadow first, then I'm going to know exactly what my tonal range will be for the rest of the drawing. So I start lengthening, is what I call it, the shadows. I start lengthening the dark value and letting it spill over, if you will, into the mid-range area. So that's so funny. Yeah, very, very, very similar. Okay. Now this is a very dark value right here and right here and then over here. Okay. Now I can tell just by moving the pencil around on this surface that I'm not going to have as many layering opportunities as I would on some surfaces. So here's the other part of that board that I cut. So I can come over here and I can test this and I can press pretty hard and then move away from that area, create this little swatch, and fade that away into the white of the paper. And that's good enough for a test right here. Now I can play around with this and see how many layers on top I could get just to figure out what this surface is going to do. Now, it's really the way that I recommend drawing on any surface. Let me zoom in here a little bit more so you can see that better. The other thing I could do is use an eraser on it and see how it performs after I erase on it. Let me use a Tombow Mono eraser. Ah, very cool, Jan. Using the black crescent board. Yeah, black I think would be kind of tough. I have used that before, actually. Drew a drawing of my daughter on black and with white pencils and some grays, and entered it into a show, and it got lost. Physical show. I don't have it to this day. So here is what happens. So I've got a little bit of ghosting, if you can see that. So something important to keep in mind if I just erase, with that scrubbing process that I just used. Not the best way to erase, but it just tells me something about the surface. Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of sad, Jan. It's kind of annoying too, to be honest. Okay. Let me try another pencil here. Okay, dark indigo. So I'm going to put dark indigo out here by luminance. I'm going to lighten that up as I move away from that area. Okay, now come back in here with my hibiscus pink. I'm going to go in this direction. Let's see what this will look like when I blend it together. I'm really testing the surface right now, testing how well the pencils are going to adhere to this surface. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press hard. I'm going to sharpen that. Now I got to hold my pencil a little more vertically to press just a little bit harder to see how this will adhere. Just want to see what it will do. Okay, there we go. Now let's go over here. I'm going to add this hibiscus pink. Fade away from that area, lightening up the pressure I'm applying to the surface as I move away from that full saturation of this pigment that I put down up here at the top. So very, very light pressure way down here. Okay, so I'm probably going to use solvent. It'll give me some more layers. It'll allow me to put more layers down. Okay, I'm going to come back on here now with a red. Let's see what this will do. This is able to adhere. That's nice. That's 3. I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot more than 3 layers. I mean, I will, but not pressing as hard as quickly as what I am right now. So I just need to bear that in mind now. Keep in mind that if I want to get, more than 3 or 4 layers easily, that I'm going to have to use lighter touch, and I'm also going to have to think about probably using solvent on some of it. So, and that's fine. Okay. Let's get back up here. That's a little too much. Too much of that Kapoot Mortem out there. So it's kind of the difference between, what your goals are with the drawing. Is the drawing piece going to look like a completely saturated drawing? I just want to create that boundary mark for myself. Or are you wanting it to look like a drawing, more like a drawing, a dry media drawing? Or do you want to have a full saturated painterly kind of look by the time you're done? So those are, pretty much broadly the choices to make. And that's what I want to think about from the very beginning. All right. I think I will use my dark indigo from Polychromos. Just want to grab a couple of those dark areas. Make sure I get those established very early. And this paper is a little stubborn in some areas, I'm noticing. So right in here, I mean, I'm off the frame here. Whoops, sorry about that. There we go. So But I noticed that this little tiny area is not wanting to fill in the tooth right in there. So, yeah, thanks, Sandra. I finally noticed that a second ago. Okay, and then down here, I want to make sure this is really dark over here. You see, and this makes sense if we look at where the light is coming from. And that's something I always want to think about, is the direction of the light, and then think about where all of these planes are located on this head, and in particular this nose. That's what we're concerned with right now. So this is what we're moving into inside the Sharpened Artist Academy in face value, and this is what we're moving into with some of the studies we're going to be doing over there in Monthly Sharpener in Member Circle. So if you look at it, let me move this out so you can see this better. But my light source, obviously it's coming from above, but it's also a little bit more horizontal than just completely above, right? This is a face that's at an angle. And so we see by these shadow shapes the position of where the light source is. And this form edge over here on the cheek, where that zygomatic is, and up here in the head as well, right in here with the orbital area. So we've got, this is very, very dark over here, but that always will be. This right in here, this area right in here is quite a bit darker. And then we've got this shadow going on over here, that slight curve right there in the upper lip with a lot of dark shadows right in there. Tell us a lot about where the light source is. So I'm going to zoom back in here just a little bit more. And okay. So my darkest area is going to be right up under here. I'm really committing myself, though, pretty early on by putting in that dark area. Now, I can erase it if I need to later on. And it might be a good exercise to go through that and to show you that, you know, it's not the end of the world if you have to erase it. It is possible. I'm going to get this shadow right here. And I'll put a little bit of this over here. There we go. Okay. Go back to my Kapoot Mortem. Now that Kapoot Mortem suddenly looks a lot lighter than it did a while ago, right? Because of that dark indigo, it just dominated so much. And now we've got a very, very dark value in here up against a value that now is becoming more of a middle range value. I have to remember this is a diffused edge for this shadow underneath. It's exciting to me because I see a lot of very, very warm tones in here. We've got some reds that we can put in here, and I think that's exciting. And just the way that those colors are wrapping around the nose, and actually, that's one of the things that I want to keep in mind. I want to think about is I want to think more like a sculptor when I'm creating some of those shadows over here on the nose, and I want to mold this nose with the pencils and think about what it's going to look like when we're finally done. We just started, and a lot of times I think the tendency when we start is to just think, oh, I just got to get some value in here. Just got to get this in here really quick, and to stop thinking about the placement of the values. And sometimes it's a very delicate structure. And if we stop thinking about where everything is located, then we've got a big mess on our hands that we'll have to clean up later. Sometimes that'll still happen, and it's fine. But if we can observe more and draw less at the beginning, usually for me, that always works better. When I think about the early stages of getting the drawing on the paper, getting the placement of everything on the paper, then I want to think more about where the curves are, where the angles are, simplify, oversimplify in my head what I'm looking at, and translate that to the paper, but be loose about where I've committed some of my angles and some of my shapes and intervals as well. And usually what happens, to be real honest about it, is once I'm off the live stream, then I'll look back at it and like, oh, that's where that should be. So there's something about just doing it live that sometimes makes it where you're not able to see things as easily. I don't know why that is. That's just the way it happens sometimes. I don't know why. I think sometimes it's just because, the brain needs a break from it, and you need to step back from it. And then if I step back and I don't think about it, and I can come back to it and I can say, oh, here's what's going on. I can see that easier now than I could a while ago. I have a little bit of reflected light happening right in here, inside the shadow, right over here, right up here. So I don't want to ignore that. I want to make sure that I think about that. I don't want to overemphasize it, though. I want to make sure everything in the shadow does communicate as a shadow. And it's not, so bright that it starts to become like part of the highlights. Now, this is already filling up quite a bit. I can feel it right in there. So I will have to do some other things. I have to get drastic here. and I'll have to press harder for one thing is what I'll have to do. I'm using very, very light pressure right now. But the other thing is, like I said, I can use solvent in that area. Now I know because of studying the planes of the head and the planes of all these features that I'm going to have more light right up here than I am anywhere else on the side of the nose here by the on this nostril, the ala over here. So I want to just remember that can be brighter than most of my other areas. This is still a darker value though than right out here. Okay. Let's see what we're looking like. I think this is angled down just a little bit more. I want to increase that shadow right there just a little bit more than what it is. I almost want to obliterate this this little edge that I created over here. I'm not one that, I mean, it's just a different style choice, I suppose, but I don't like a lot of hard edges, especially on the shadows, and especially where I don't think it helps to communicate anything a whole lot. I would rather have a shadow that is soft and communicates something very, very subtle rather than some kind of hard edge on the beginning of a form shadow. And you see that a lot. I'm not sure why that is, but like I'll have just this line right here showing where the shadow is, and it's never resolved. It's some kind of construction line that remains to the very end, and it never disappears with some drawings. And I mean, it's style choice, obviously. I just don't care for that type of style a whole lot. It does appear to be more academic when I see that. I see it a lot. And it's just something that, I'd prefer trying to get rid of edges, trying to get rid of lines, Okay. I think that this board would probably lend itself to drawing much, much larger. So 11 by 14 probably wouldn't be too bad, but I did cut this down. So we're drawing very small, 7.5 inches wide. Okay, a little bit more right in there. And add a little bit more of my Kapoot Mortem right here, and then we will call it a morning. Hope everyone's doing well, and hope if you're in the western or southern states, rather, that you've got power. And if you didn't have power for a while, I hope it's back on now. That sounded like a complete mess, so hope you're not part of that. I've talked to several who are. It would be really awful. But I hope that's getting straightened out. Okay, adding a little bit more right in there. What did I do with my eraser? It's in my hand. Okay, I can tap on that a little bit just to soften some of that shading that I have on here, some of the pigment. And so I'm using Polychromos pencils by Faber-Castell. Those are some of my favorite pencils. Probably will be using Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils also. Some more of my favorite pencils. And, you know, when you put some pencil layers down and some pigment down on the paper, then you can use your kneaded eraser or putty and take that off, remove it, and you've got this very, very nice surface then to work on top of that. And you have gotten rid of some of that just stark white. You've created a subtle transition in the mid-range or even in a shadow, eventually going to be a shadow. And it makes for a very nice technique for getting more of the pigment on the paper in a subtle way. And it just builds up this amount of pigment on the paper, and your next pencil layers love that. It works so well because it has something to hold on to and to build on top of. Kind of hard to explain, but it works really well. Rather than just drawing on the white of the paper itself, you're starting to draw on top of, pencil on top of pencil. And there's something very nice about getting that done and getting that on the paper. It works so much better than just trying to come in there very delicately on the paper and hoping it will create an even distribution. Usually it won't, and it just takes so much time to build that up. But if you don't worry about that as much, like if I come out here in this range that is right next to the highlight's right here. So on the edge of the highlight, I want that portion of the paper to be stained, right? I want it to be stained a color. It's going to have a color. Even in the highlight, I'm going to have a pigment in there. I'm going to have color from the colored pencil. But the pencil wants to adhere to the paper very quickly, and it wants to put down harsher lines than what I really want at this point. So putting it down, taking it off is a great way to go. So I've put it down. Now I'm going to remove it. Well, it doesn't all go away. A little bit of it remains. It's just a great way to process through the drawing. Okay, and to create that soft, subtle gradation in your values rather than going through here and trying to be very, very delicate the entire time, especially in the beginning of the drawing process. The other thing I think I probably will want to do is switch over to, like I'm doing right now, just single strokes in one direction rather than scrubbing back and forth. I'm going in one direction right now. And that will help to protect the tooth of the paper longer and give me more options for putting more layers down. Okay, let's take a look here. This angle, not completely satisfied with that angle over here, but it's good enough for right now. Out here on the tip. I think we should be angled up just a little bit more right in there. There we go. Okay. All right, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and call it a morning. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out. You can ask right now. Otherwise, we're going to be stopping here in just a moment. I want to look back over it, make sure nothing is getting too dominant. That looks like it's a little bit darker than what I want it to be. I can remove that. There we go. There we go. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Sandra. Thanks for coming out here. Thanks for reminding me about the nose being telling me about the camera angle being a little bit off there, so that I zoomed back out. I appreciate it. Cheryl, you forgot. Oh no. That's all right. You can watch the replay. The replay will be available here in just a little while. Awesome. Thank you, Oksana. Thanks for coming out here. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to leave it alone until next week, I suppose. Maybe doing a live stream though, here in a couple days from now. So we'll see. All right. All right. Yeah, we'll see you, Jan. Thanks for coming out here as well. Hey, Melanie. Okay. Yeah, watch the replay. It will be out and available here in just a little while, I'm guessing. I think it's quicker. The replay is quicker over there on Facebook, which Melanie's over on. She's over there on Facebook. Than it is on YouTube for whatever reason. I'm not sure why that is, but it seems to be published quicker over on Facebook. YouTube takes a minute to get it published. So looks like we do need to go darker right in here under the nostril right there, getting close to the tip. I shouldn't have picked this back up, right? You know how that is. It's hard to stop once you start something. But I have to stop. I've got a lot of other things I got to get done today here, this morning even. All right. There we go. Thanks, guys, for joining me, and I will talk to you again really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.